Hello everyone, welcome to my talk. Scan the code and then I can show my slide, okay? In this talk, I'll be talking about how much is the Phish. So essentially it will be about raising the cost for the attacker who wants to perform a reverse proxy phishing operation. So about me, quickly, my name is Kuba Gretzky, also known as that Evilginx guy. Quickly, I'm an offensive security tools developer. I've developed several tools myself, and this is what I basically do myself. I'm as well an independent security researcher, and I'm a hobby music producer and like a newbie DJ recently starting out, just learning how to mix stuff. Also a gamer and an ex-MMO game hacker. So game hacking was a big thing for me, like 15 years ago maybe. It was all about like reverse engineering and writing automation software for massive online multiplayer games. And I've learned most of the skills I used till this day back then. It is all very similar to actually bypassing AV or EDR products. It's very similar to bypassing anti-cheats in online games. So I run a blog where I publish some of my research that I do in my free time, so you can check it out if you want. I also made the Pound Drop. This is like a tool that was made for red teamers to host their payloads. So it's a bit now forgotten, like for a few years. So I may get back to it after I also handle all the Evilginx updates myself. And of course, I made Evilginx that you may already know. By the way, how many people in the audience use Evilginx? Okay, how many people hate Evilginx? Because I know there are a few of those people. Okay, so anyway. The story behind Evilginx. So it was released 6 years ago, and back then it was just like a very simple script, Lua script used with Nginx, a custom version of Nginx. It was like, I think, like an open REST Nginx version. So basically what it did, it just was a demonstration of using a proxy pass feature of Nginx and capturing the cookies that were going back from the website to the user. It was essentially working as a reverse proxy that later got popularized, the whole term. Then in the version 2.0, I released as a standalone tool a year later in 2018. And till this day, it's been running. And recently, 2 weeks ago, I released a free version 3, which is more like a quality of life update of Evilginx. I tried to refresh it and add some new features that I've been working on for the couple of last years. So how does it work? How does it work, the reverse proxy phishing with Evilginx? Not only Evilginx, but also other reverse proxy tools. So basically, what you have to do is you have to install Evilginx on a remote server. And this server will act both as a client and as a server. So essentially it will await connections from your victims, you can say, and they will be served the website which is actually proxied from the real website. That's how the reverse proxy thing works. Same thing as Nginx proxy pass, which actually just grabs the content and transfers it back to the user. So we have the user and the internet on the right side, and what the user does, the user initiates a connection with your Evilginx server over the fake domain. Well, not the fake one, but you have to register it and you have to buy it first. But essentially, this is like the main point. You have to have your own registered domain, which does not look the same as the one you're trying to imitate. So then the request, all the packets actually are transferred back. So there is one TLS connection between the user and the Evilginx server. And there's also another TLS connection between Evilginx and the destination website. So basically what the user does, what Evilginx does, it will handle these two connections and be able to decrypt all the packets on its own. So all the packets that come from the user are basically decrypted on Evilginx side, so it can tell what the requests are holding, essentially with usernames and passwords. And then it opens another connection, trying to become a client on its own, talking to the target website, and also sending back the same username and password with the same HTTP request that it would do normally. And then what the destination website respond with is the session token, for example, if the login was successful. And this session token is something that is captured by Evilginx, and that allows us to bypass multi-factor authentication. So basically, if you take this session code and you import it into your web browser, you can get logged into this user's account without actually knowing even the credentials, the login and the password. So what does the user see when they open the phishing page? They see the address of the page, which is, like in this example, linkedin.fake.com, because you have to register your own domain, and this is like the main point of this talk that I want to focus on. And the rest is basically what they will get proxied with. So it essentially looks much better than I put on the picture, because it actually makes a copy, one-to-one copy from the destination site back to the user. So the user has no idea of knowing if the website is actually fake or not, because it looks exactly the same as the target website. So how to bypass multi-factor authentication? So like I said before, mentioned, the one thing that has to be captured is the session token. And this is actually not a funny, like an image. It is a real image from Linus Tech Tips YouTube video, as they got recently hacked. It was not through the phishing attempt, but it was through installing malware that actually stole cookies from their production PCs, and these cookies were then used to impersonate their YouTube accounts, and the attackers could then act on their own, in context of their own YouTube accounts. So what can be done? The attacks are still highly effective, and not much has really improved over the last 6 years. So as I'm looking at it, like there are people saying that you can use YubiKeys, you can use U2F, you can use FIDOs and all these other things, but the security responsibility is put on the side of the user, which I think is a bad thing, because actually the website developers should do a better job and know how to protect their own users, because this is actually what they should be doing. Like that's the main thing. So the question remains. The question that once Scooter asked, that was very important, and I will try to answer in this talk. And this is, how much is the phish? Like, what is the cost for the attacker to actually perform a successful phishing operation? And how to raise the cost for the attacker? So the main weak point of every phishing attempt is actually the phishing page domain. The phishing domain. So this is the thing that you have to register every time, and this is something that it has to be always different from the legitimate website. So if you want to phish, I say like LinkedIn, you cannot just register LinkedIn.com because it's taken. Otherwise, that you could use some man-in-the-middle kind of attack, but you'd have to have a TLS certificate that is the private keys of the real TLS certificate of LinkedIn, and you cannot just like that impersonate a registered domain. So you have to have your own. So this is actually impossible to spoof this domain without GUI tricks, so graphical user interface tricks. So I'm mentioning this because Mr. Docs actually released a really great project. He actually created with HTML and CSS and JavaScript, he created his like an own visual representation of a pop-up in Windows, and this pop-up would actually be rendered into the web browser looking like a real pop-up that Windows would show, and it would show a normal like page with the real domain all of this was rendered. So other than that, the domain can always be verified visually when you just look at it. So this is like the thing that we've been hearing all the time. Check the domain, if it's the phishing domain and if it's not. But still, the responsibility is like transferred on the user. So the website developers should be actually doing this job. And the interesting part is, it can be verified with JavaScript. So adding the defenses, like how to make phishing harder on the side of the web development. So we have two objects that are accessible through JavaScript. This is like window location and document location. And these objects actually hold all the information that we need to protect the users. So we have the host name, the full URL of the page that the user is currently visiting. And it is important to use this to verify if the user is on the real website, because otherwise, if the user is on the phishing website, the URL would be just not the real one, and the owners of the website know on what domain they actually host the website. So this is something that we can actually confirm. So this is and this is also unspoofable. So you cannot just write your own JavaScript and put your own values into this location object. So it's basically read-only. So even if you like write your JavaScript and put like window .location.host equals something else, the real domain, then it will not get overwritten. So this is something that there were some bugs before, like a long ago in web browsers, but since the web browsers are now pretty mature, these bugs have been eradicated. So client-side JavaScript detections. This is a simple script that any website can actually employ, and it doesn't cost the developers anything to implement this kind of thing. So this is just to show you, this is a regular expression that will look for .lab.evilginx.com at the end of the host name here using regular expressions. And if this actually matches, then it will return true. If it doesn't, it will return false. And we can implement this execution of this function in the process of user logging in. So when the user is trying to log in, they will get booted out of the whole process if this domain is not right, because it's essentially there will be an indicator of a phishing attempt if the domain doesn't match, and the user should not be allowed to log in. And thankfully, with JavaScript, it is such a flexible language that we can actually obfuscate it even more. So, like, we can turn all the object names, as you can see, the location, host, and even the function name, the match, into strings, and we can then use arrays to also to put it like into the expression, and it will be like correct syntax. And all of these strings that are written here, the location, host, and match, can be later obfuscated. You can even use something simple as base 64 just to not make it look similar. So how does Evilginx work, and how Evilginx can actually bypass these protections? Because I implemented a thing that's called subfilters into Evilginx, and how it works is it will take the responses from the website, and as they go through Evilginx, the user who writes a fishlet is like a small script that's being digested by Evilginx to know how to target a specific website. They can actually write their own regular expression to find specific strings in the data that was received, either if it's HTML or JavaScript, find this data on the specific domain, and then it can replace it with something else. So in this example, the example is for the script that was on the previous slide. It will look for the regular expression that tries to look for the proper domain name at the end of the host name. So once it finds it, then it will replace it with dot and asterisk, which is a regular expression for anything, essentially. So how does this script work after the user retrieves it, when it gets parsed by Evilginx, and how it gets received on the user end? is that the regular expression will be replaced with just looking for anything. So this protection is bypassed. So how can we make it harder still? So implement dynamic code obfuscation. It sounds easy. It's maybe not that easy to implement, but you can use like JavaScript obfuscation engines that are available online, or even write your own, and just try to generate, try to make your JavaScript code harder to read for the attacker. But of course, it will generate a static version of this JavaScript. So still, you can see even here in the middle, this regular expression, the string was not obfuscated. So this bypass that Evilginx will do will still work and apply in this scenario. So this is not good enough still. Then you need to remember to obfuscate the strings. So how can JavaScript really obfuscate the strings? So it can be as simple as using even simple string concatenation. So you just grab parts of the string and you just put plus in between, like here in this in this example. Either you can use replace all, so just put some random characters inside of your string and then use replace all to just remove them all together. So the main trick of why to do it, like you have to generate a unique version of this kind of obfuscation for every user that visits your website, so that attacker, like me, for example, using Evilginx, will look for known signatures in the JavaScript code with your protections. So I will just be looking for example, this regular expression and replace it with my own. So making sure that every user actually receives a different version of the website, me as an attacker have no idea what to look for, essentially, because I cannot prepare one fishlet with one regular expression that will apply to every obfuscated version of the website that the user will receive. So we can even use, like, as an example, some base64 with replace all function calls. And the key points of increasing the costs for the attacker, to summarize, it's like to use the location object to validate the domain of the currently viewed page. This is like the most important factor. Then obfuscate the detection code. So like I showed you, like you have to use some kind of JavaScript engine. It's even good enough to write your own, just to make sure to obfuscate the strings as well, and to deliver unique version of obfuscated JavaScript to every visitor. I know that there's an issue with that, because JavaScript likes to be cached on CDNs, for example, so that way we do not generate additional traffic when the website loads. So it doesn't have to be with every page refresh, but it would at least be enough if one user retrieves just one static version, which is different from the other user that actually opens the page. And this version can be still different, can be still the same across several page opens. But the most important part is to not let the attacker know what to expect. So make it impossible to find and replace your detection code with a single regular expression, because this is how Evilginx worked. I have no way actually I haven't figured out a way how to make it more versatile in terms of bypassing these kind of protections, but I know that currently all the reverse proxy phishing frameworks, not only Evilginx and even the ones that are used by cyber criminals and other people, they will usually just use single regular expression to look for the protection code to remove it. And another thing, this is something new that I wanted to talk about, that I haven't seen anyone actually talk about it before, and these are secret tokens. So secret tokens is a kind of like a protection, which is also client-side, made in JavaScript, which adds an extra value into the post request while you are logging in on the website. So for example, with the packet HTTP request that you are sending with your login, your email and the password, there will be another value added in the background with some additional data. Like it looks encrypted. It's like a blob of data. And usually, this is actually an example that I took from LinkedIn, because LinkedIn actually started implementing this kind of technique, and all of the major websites I can see that are now implementing similar techniques. So this encrypted blob of data holds some client session characteristics, and we have no idea to know what it is there, because it's actually generated with JavaScript that they implement on the website. So we can either reverse engineer this whole process of how this token is created, so that we can later write our own code into Evilginx that will spoof this token with this whole information. But the key is that this encrypted blob of data will hold also the domain that the user is currently visiting. And this packet is then sent to the server, this value, and the server is able to decrypt it and verify if the user actually accessed the website from either the phishing domain or from the legitimate domain. So it is very simple, similar as using the protection that I mentioned before, but it gives it like a different twist to it, because the detection is actually done on the server. So as an example, how can you generate this kind of secret token? So this secret token can actually, there's one interesting property that I found in HTML, every HTML DOM element of the website that it opens, and this is essentially URI. So as you can see, if you grab any element that is rendered on the website, you can grab the base URI property out of it, and it will give you the origin of where this element is being rendered on. So you can use it the same way as window location, because it will always hold the real domain name of the website that's currently being viewed. So what we can do is we can iterate through all of the DOM elements, serialize the attribute values, and put it into a JSON structure, which later can be encrypted with a passphrase, which is unique to the user. So it makes like a good idea to encrypt it with some input data that both the user knows and the server, which can be like a combination of email and password, for example, to make it unique across the different user. And this is the basic protection code that I wrote as an example. So what it does, it will recursively call the function element to object, which basically goes through all of the elements rendered on the website and grabs the tokens, not the tokens, but the base URI of every element that is rendered on the website, and then it encapsulates it all into one structure that is later used to be encrypted and encrypted with the email and password, and then added to the post request and sent together with the credentials. So has it been spotted like in the wild? So yes, Google uses it, or rather I should say used it. They had like a kind of protection that would protect themselves from headless browser automation. So what they would do is they had this secret token embedded within their whole sign-in process, and it would generate through very high level of obfuscation. I tried to like reverse engineer this JavaScript code that Google had, like trying to find out how this token is generated, but it just made no sense. So, and this shows how to make it impossible for the attacker, like to make it too hard to actually be able to bypass these kind of protections, just to make it so hard that they actually will just give up and go and fish some other website, and that's the only thing. And what Google used, they used this secret token, which was like a BotGuard token. But other than that, at the beginning of this year, they actually implemented a new version of their sign-in API, and they removed it. I have no idea why. Maybe they are just trying to debug it and implement some new features and test them first before trying to implement some better protection. I don't know. Maybe it's still coming, but it's like several months already, and this token was not implemented. Another one is LinkedIn that I also found out. So, like I showed you, this AFPC, I think, value with the post request. The interesting part is that the whole login process is allowed, even if you're attacking the user through reverse proxy, Evilginx server, for example. So the attacker will be, the phished user will be allowed to log in, but upon successful login, the account will be immediately locked, and you will have to unlock it through going through email verification and things like that. So this is like a very interesting approach because it doesn't actually break the whole sign-in process. It only makes it impossible once the reverse proxy phishing attack is successful. It will lock an account because it will detect that it was using the phishing domain and not the real one. So, are secret tokens unspoofable? So this is an interesting question because, like I explained, you can either reverse engineer the JavaScript code to find out how this token is formed and then recreate this code to create your own token. But this takes time, and of course, if you employ very good JavaScript obfuscation, which is always possible, and you can only actually debug it with Google Chrome these days, and Chrome debugger is essentially like a go-to place for JavaScript debugging, and still I could not use the Chrome debugger to debug, for example, the Google obfuscated JavaScript code. So at that point, it actually makes it impossible for the attacker to be able to remove such protection. So, kind of. There is one way that you can imagine, what if we took another approach and actually, while the user is getting phished, we open another browser in the background using the legitimate domain and legitimate website, and we try to, as the user is entering their credentials, like, for example, login and password, it will pause the reverse proxy attempt, the phishing attempt, and in the background, using the browser, the real browser, using the legitimate, the real domain, it will try to log into the user's account and grab this secret token that's generated in the legitimate session, and then grab this token, like break the execution of this real login attempt that's happening in the background, and just grab this token and paste it into the reverse proxy phishing session. Eventually, so this is the thing that I want to demo right now. I have a video. I didn't prepare live demos, but essentially, then the demo gods will be okay with that. So here you can see on the top right, we have Evilginx terminal running, installed on a remote server. On the bottom right, we have the login page of the user who's being currently phished. You can see there's the domain name of accounts.google.fake.com. And on the left side, we have this background browser that is opened on the side of Evilginx, on the attacker's side, on the attacker's server, that's waiting for user input. And what happens now, you can see quickly, when the user enters their login and presses enter, the background browser will open the legitimate website, which you can see it's accounts.google.com, like here, and it will copy all of the actions on behalf of the user. So it will enter the login. So you can see it entered the login. It was allowed, and at the same time, the session token is actually being captured. Well, not the session, the secret token is being captured from this background browser and injected into the reverse proxy session on on the side of the phished user. So you can see the phished user is also getting through the protections. Otherwise, Google would just say that something went wrong if this token that was captured from the background was invalid, and the user can be continued to get phished. So then the user enters their password, and the background browser mimics the same thing. You could see it happened really fast because it actually entered the password and then broke the connection so that the user would not like retrieve like double information that someone tried to log into their account. And then in the proxy session, you can see that there is now the Google is now awaiting for two-step verification over the fake domain. So at this point, I would open like my phone like as a phished user and accept it, and you can see that we are successfully logged in. And when the session is actually being listed, then it shows you that the session was properly captured. So this is like one idea of what can be done on the defensive side. So to recap, yeah. Well, it wasn't a live demo though, but yeah. So to recap, on the defender side, we have to validate the domain with JavaScript. So this is the important part. Then we obfuscate the code. Then we obfuscate the strings, and then we randomize. So like this is the most important part actually, to have every visitor receive a different version of the website, like essentially in the JavaScript together with the protections. On the attacker side, it will increase the cost of reverse engineering because the reverse engineering is a very exhausting job, and sometimes it's not even possible. And it will make it impossible to find and remove protection code. So basically, this is it. I released recently an Evilginx course, so if you want to learn more about reverse proxy phishing, I have a special ZIFCON discount for anyone who wants to use my course. And basically, thank you.